Greetings, friends, and welcome to Captain Samuels.
Let's judge this book, friends.
You know it. I've got a special and honored guest today, Malcolm from Warrenburg. Malcolm, welcome, kind sir.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on. Malcolm has a great channel. I first discovered him when he had a video on an in-depth look at all the books that Harry Harrison has done, and I learned a lot from him on that. And been following his channel for a long time. He also covers a lot of modern IPs and a lot of comic books and graphic novels. So I thought he'd be a great person to have on for taking a look at Judge Dredd Case Files 1. So Malcolm, would you like to do a general overview of Judge Dredd?
Yeah, sure. So Judge Dredd, for those who don't know, is a sort of futuristic, post-apocalyptic story set in a world where humanity is crammed into these megacities, and so lawlessness is rife and barely kept in check by these judges who have to take the law into their own hands, literally.
Yeah, well said. And the only thing I'd add is that it started back in 1977 and was part of a larger comic that had mini comics in it. And that larger comic was called 2000 AD. And it's a UK comic, and Malcolm is from the UK, so that's another great reason to have him on.
Yeah, but I've never read Judge Dredd before.
Yeah, neither have I. I saw the movie when I was young, and my brother had a Game Boy game called Judge Dredd, which had excellent title music. And I've always just kind of wondered about Judge Dredd and what the IP was all about. And I knew that you were into comics and stuff, so I was like, hey, do you want to read this with me? And, you very kindly joined.
I thought, why not? Couldn't think of a good reason not to.
Yeah. And then the only other thing is it was created by writer John Wagner and artist Carlos Esquera.
That's right.
Yeah. Cool. So then we had kind of a list of themes here. And the first one that you kind of mentioned when we talked about in email a bit was explaining to me what troggies were. Because that's a UK term. And some of the movies and pop culture references in the comics.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's set in North America, New York in particular.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, because it's been created by British people, there are lots of anglicized tropes in there. And so troggy is actually a Welsh term for a human cave dweller. And basically, I think in America you would refer to people as Neanderthals if they're a bit stupid, dim-witted, uncouth in public.
Right.
But we would call them trogs. Troggies is a term I use for the book, but obviously trogs or troglodyte is the full term.
Yeah, and for our audience, Malcolm actually sent me a whole bunch of synonyms for trog, so now I've got all kinds of UK insults ready to go if I ever need them. Yeah.
Yes, we do well on insults.
Nice. So yeah, there were some pop culture references hidden in there. Did you catch the X-wing Star Wars fighter?
I didn't see that one. No.
Yeah, it was on one of the Moon episodes when Judge Dredd goes to the moon, and the moon is kind of used as like a placeholder for like the Wild West. And in one of the comics, I forget exactly which one, there was like an X-wing fighter kind of hidden off to the side. And there's another one too where Judge Dredd blows up a dude's car for not having a muffler and breaking pollution laws. And if you look at his license readout when Judge Dredd swipes it, the guy's name is F. Nixon.
Very nice.
Yeah, I agree. So that's cool. Did you want to talk about... So also as an aside, Malcolm and I are literary critique buddies. So he's helping me with my next book, Tales of M's X-Tane, and I'm helping him with his next book, Flavours Volume 2. And I really enjoy his work because it's got a lot of this macabre, horror-based humor in it. And I think you were telling me you found some of that in Judge Dredd as well.
Oh yes, yeah. You can definitely tell it's done in England. It's very satirical, but very sarcastic and over the top. There was certainly a lot of. It's contradictory because, like I say, it's set in America, but in an America that the British have imagined.
Yeah.
And one of my feelings I got from this was very much, as a country, we look at the USA and their gun fanaticism, really,
Yeah.
with the sort of what's going on with that. You go, oh, it's our amendment, it's our right, blah blah blah. It's like, well, so,
Yeah.
and so we really don't understand it. And I think the creators looked at this, like I say, apparent fanaticism, as according to us, in the future where everyone, even more so than now, has got a gun, and the law is dictated with the barrel of a weapon rather than due process and all the rest of it, or process, as you would say.
Yeah, you nailed it. And I listened to some interviews of John Wagner talking about Judge Dredd, and he was talking about, authoritarianism and the rise of that in the U.S., and kind of looking at those trends back in the late 1970s. And when I edit it, I'll put this picture up on screen, but there is this picture from Justice Day, the Justice Day parade, where you've got the American flags and the signs that say law and judges rule, okay? And the whole notion that these judges have to be in absolute control because otherwise the criminals are going to be running amok. This whole fear about crime allows them to kind of take over and rule things, as you said.
Yeah, it's like the episode when we had where they built the statue, the judge statue, right next to the Statue of Liberty
Yeah.
and dwarfed it completely. That
Yep.
was very in your face, not subtle at all.
Yeah.
Yes, you have the Statue of Liberty, but law encompasses all. And the fact that the bad guy at the end falls out the top and is impaled on the Statue of Liberty's crown.
Yeah, that was crazy, man.
So volumes there.
Yeah, and that's an example of the macabre humor we were getting at, and I just loved it. Like, where he catches that one criminal, and the criminal goes, "Hey, I'll tell you where my ringleader is if you commute my sentence." And before Judge Dredd even agrees, the criminal spills the beans about where his boss is, and he originally had a sentence of 40 years, and Judge Dredd is like, "Thank you for your cooperation, citizen. Your sentence is hereby commuted to 364 days."
Just takes a day off. Yeah.
Yeah, like that was so funny, man. Yeah. So there was a surprising amount of really good humor. Like I laughed out loud at Judge Dredd.
I did. I was expecting to.
Yeah. Yeah, me neither. It was good stuff. And then I also liked the part where there was that game show where they were killing people live on the game show. And
Yep.
Judge Dredd has this robot companion named Walter. And he brought Walter along for the arrest because Walter was using his robotic abilities to like tell where the game show was broadcasting from. And as they're like breaking into the studio, trying to stop this game contestants from getting murdered, Walter is like playing along with the game, like, take what's in the mystery box. Yeah.
Yeah, Walter. An interesting choice. I sort of both liked and disliked Walter.
Yeah.
I found and you pointed this out with his housekeeper Maria, the very stereotypical Italian American.
Yeah.
Fine, you've given the robot a lisp, but then to then have to say the R word in everything just to
Yeah.
really underline it, and it's like, well, it's already an annoying companion. Why
Yeah.
make it even more annoying? But then you can't hate it because it's so nice. It's like kicking a puppy.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that too much either. A family member of mine actually had a lisp when this person was young, and they grew up to help people with that kind of issue. And that person would always tell me about, being bullied and stuff like that. So I don't know. I wasn't such a fan of that as like a comedic device. I also really didn't like Maria. I just felt like she jarred with the super futuristic tone of Judge Dredd, that you've got this super powerful authoritarian guy that just goes home and kind of gets henpecked by his landlady. And also he like lived in a regular apartment, kind of like a regular Joe. I thought that was a little weird.
Well, I figured because of the overpopulation, that was all you would get, regardless of who you were. Everyone had these little pods. In fact, he just sits there in his armor with his helmet on the chair, and that's literally his pastime. That's what he did, just sit there.
Yeah. He didn't have any like hobbies or anything. He'd just go home and like plop in his chair. So then, one of the other themes was technology for state surveillance, and they had a couple of interesting gizmos. Do you want to tell us a little bit some of those?
Oh gosh, I've got to try and remember what they were. There's certainly the voice recognition software that came in quite early on because you had that face changing
Yeah,
criminal. We went to the facility that got his face changed, and off he went, and he cockily spoke to Judge. Ah, you don't know who I am.
yeah, I
Ah,
love that.
I got recognition for that, and so nabbed him just with his voice print. And you think, well, that's a nice futuristic thing, which we've had that for 10 years at least now.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
of course, then they also have the facial recognition, which is why to change his face in the first place. Um, what else are there? Lots of surveillance. Certainly, I think. If you ever seen Demolition Man, the control room there felt very as an homage to Judge Dredd. I think we didn't see the central control very often, but it was very much kind of what they used in Judge Dredd with the monitors everywhere and the sort of an
yeah,
AI machine that you could use to communicate and find out where people are.
yeah. That was kind of creepy, and it kind of reminds me of things that you see on the news these days about tech bros are using this for your data, and here in the U.S. we have protests and stuff, and they tell me that if you go to protest, wear sunglasses or maybe a mask or something because they can use Face ID to tell who is at these protests and things like that. And it was interesting to see these comic book panels of a place called Control, where it's just bays and bays of television, and all these guys at the monitors can just see what everybody's doing. And they've got face recognition of everybody and voice recognition. And I also love that scene where the guy's like, watch this, I'm going to get my face changed and Judge Dredd will never know me. And then he's like, morning, Judge, great day, isn't it? And he's like, certainly is, citizen, but not for you. It's good stuff. Yeah. And then at the end there, they had the guys that used the face change device again, and they changed themselves into like Laurel and Hardy and Charlie Chaplin and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was I found that was a really fascinating anachronistic one again, because this is supposed to be set like it's 100 years in our future even,
Yeah.
and of course at the time when it was written in the 70s, Charlie Chaplin, the Three Stooges, and Laurel and Hardy, they're on our screens all the time. We got
Yep.
we grew up with the Laurel and Hardy black and white things and the Laurel and Hardy cartoon, and so we knew these faces quite well back in the day.
Yeah.
But in 200 years, nobody's going to know who these people are.
Yeah, exactly. I know who Laurel and Hardy are because we watched the March of the Wooden Soldiers around the holidays. But my kids wouldn't know who they were. They'd be like, "Huh?" I actually read some Judge Dredd to one of my kids, and they liked it okay. I don't know if they got all to like the jokes because they were kind of political, but they thought it was an entertaining romp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read him the story where the mom is like, "Little Billy, be good, or Judge Dredd is gonna get you."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Judge Dredd bursts through the door. "We're here for Billy," and the mom's like, "What are you doing?" "We're twisting his head off, ma'am." "Oh no!" And then like Billy turns out to be a robot.
That was so random. What was going on
Yeah,
there?
my
And the
kid thought that was
technology was
great.
very bizarre, and just generally, not just for the law enforcement aspect of it, but it looked like everyone's stuck on the road in vehicles or motorbikes and stuff, apart from
Yeah,
the emergency services, because the ambulances were flying. Not that they featured very often, and that was another interesting adaptation. Because in the earlier stories, the villains were generally injured and were arrested and
yeah,
taken off in hospital, but by about the King Kong episode. No, they were just killed.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
you had the flying ambulances, and then the judges themselves had various flying things, but you never saw the civilians in anything that flew.
yeah. That's a good point. They all kind of had to get around with more basic transportation. All right, let's see here. So one of the things that I thought was really interesting was if the judges are so effective at stopping crime, why is crime so rampant? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I took it being over a population thing. You got so many people crowded. What was it? 800,000 people, was it, crammed into Mega City 1?
Yeah.
And of course, they're preyed on by the mutant underworld, the Troggies,
Yep.
and the outsiders from the wasteland as well. So you got these bad influences from the outside. But yeah, that was my one complaint about the villains. There wasn't any motivation.
Hmm.
Because that was that one episode with the robots, I think it was, and the guy in the hover wheelchair thing. And it was like, great, this guy's going to have a motivation. You know, he was clearly a worker who got injured and he's in the wheelchair and he's lost his job to the robots.
Yeah.
That would be a really good. No, never mentioned. Not actually. It might be implied potentially, but he's just a bad guy in a wheelchair thing, rather than, I've lost my job due to the advancement of these machines.
Yeah. Good point. I often, now that I think about it, I would tend to agree with that, where it often felt like the motivation for these villains was kind of left out. Like it's just taken as a matter of course that, everybody hates the judges. And in a way that almost feels, I guess, almost how the comic might read from like the authoritarian or the judge's point of view, where it's like, of course you guys don't like us. You're bad guys, you're terrorists, you're criminals. You hear that a lot of, on the news today. And why people are upset about the way things are going just kind of conveniently gets left out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the judges themselves only had a few good ones. I mean, obviously everyone had heard of Judge Dredd. He was the, little Billy, eat your cornflakes or Judge Dredd would come and get you sort of thing.
Yeah.
But none of the other judges even had a name to them, really. I mean, they were named, but no one knew who they were.
Yeah.
And it was such a hard process as well, because we saw Judge Giant get his black helmet eventually having qualified after nearly not, because he screwed up so much and shot Judge Dredd by accident. That would have been an innocent fail in my book, but never mind. Let's give him another chance.
Yeah.
So even getting into the gig, I think, looked like a really hard thing to do. And of course, you had that one corrupt one who tried murdering the judge, murdering Dredd, and then the death toll. As I think I emailed you about the fact, they start off on the first episode, the first guy we see gets killed straight up.
Yep.
And at the end of the episode, he hangs his shield on the wall to those who have fallen to say, for the law. By the end of the book, how big that wall's going to be? It's going to be massive to fit all those great big shields on it, because there's so many who've died.
Yeah, the judges did kind of get taken out pretty quickly if they didn't have Dredd written on their badge, that's for sure. Yeah,
because between the Elvis, the violent car, and which was the one, the robots, the robot uprising, so many judges just got wasted on those two.
Yeah. What did you think of the robot uprising storyline?
I think it was a standard rebellion sort of tale. There wasn't much, again, in depth to it. You had this one robot who decided, I'm going to rebel just because I've got a wonky circuit.
Yeah.
As I'll break everybody else's circuits. It wasn't even a mistreated robot. I like the first one we saw, which was told to step into the fire and burn and cry while it's doing it.
Yeah.
And that was dark, man. But that wasn't even the same story. Yeah, it's just suddenly this random thing starts going amok and causing widespread death. I mean, this is one thing. Normally, when you read heroes, they're going to save the day. They're going to stop the thing falling. They're going to stop little Billy falling down the well, sort of thing. But no, mass death all over the place. Yeah,
a ton of people got taken out in the Robot Wars, and that was the first long story arc in the case files. Like up to that, it had just been one comic stories. That one was, I think it was 7 or 8 comics. At first, I didn't like the Robot Wars because it felt like Judge Dredd is at his best when he's dealing with humans and human foibles, like blowing up the guy's car because he didn't have a muffler when he broke the pollution laws. And it just seemed like, robots running amok, trash and stuff. But I started to think a little bit deeper about the ending where the robots were angry because they didn't have enough rights and they were tired of doing everybody's kind of dirty work. And what John Wagner said in one of his interviews was that was kind of like a metaphor for some kind of mining strike that happened in the UK a long time ago where the police came and, cracked heads just because guys, wanted better wages and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was going on at the time.
Yeah. And that made me look at it a little bit differently. We're maybe these robots are like a metaphor for, the working class.
Well, robots normally are, because they're generally the servant or slave fill-in. We've always got to have someone to push around.
Yep.
We're not allowed to do it with humans anymore, so let's make an artificial human and do it to them instead.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
And what I thought was really funny, and this is more of that macabre humor, is that at the end, instead of, the judges going, boy, those robots sure were pissed off because they didn't have any rights. Maybe we need to make some changes around here. They go, well, Walter, saved Judge Dredd, so we're going to give Walter his freedom. And one robot gets his freedom, and then Judge Dredd continues to treat Walter like crap. And then later on, Walter's like, oh, I don't even know what to do with freedom. Like, I'm done. Like, here's my deed of ownership. Like, I can't be a free robot. I just thought that was, so interesting.
Back again,
yeah. So anything else specific that you kind of want to talk about, in terms of what you liked or didn't like about the book?
I really did like the artwork. Not quite every panel, but most panels were so detailed.
Yeah.
You could just spend ages just looking at any one panel. I don't know how I missed the X-Wing that you mentioned, but there's so much going on. I mentioned about the control room, like from Demolition Man, but like you say, there's all the screens, there's the labels, the big label over people's chests saying what their jobs are.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that too. How everybody in Mega City 1 dressed in a military fashion and have these massive labels on like what they do. Like the bank teller that gets shot has like this massive headband that says "teller" on his helmet. Yeah,
that's great. And I also like the faces because so often in comics, everyone just looks perfect. The guys will have that chiseled jaw, and the girls will have that figure.
Yeah.
And yet there's some really ugly people in this because they look normal. They're not beautified at all. And I found it hilarious that you got this face-changing institution where you can actually improve your face or change it, and yet everyone looks as bad as they do. And my theory is they've all used so much their faces just turned into sourdough, effectively.
Yeah, that is true. Sometimes you get like these wealthy celebrities that have fiddled with their appearance so much that, they probably should have just left well enough alone and stuck with their natural appearance.
I find a nice close-up one, but
Yeah.
And that's a face that's been lived in, hasn't it?
Yeah.
That's seen some serious stuff.
Sports time. Yeah. That's great stuff. Yeah. I like the artwork, okay. Occasionally I would get a little confused about like what panel to go to next. Sometimes I was a little bit lost. But other than that, I really enjoyed it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the strong point for me. The weak point, I think, was the very surface level characterization. We don't really know about Judge Dredd at all. We get tidbits, and I did like the way you slowly had an unfolding of the lore, as it were, as the stories progressed. But we never really returned to anything that was revealed.
Yeah.
But he's just a judge. He's the one that gets stuff done because I don't know. He happens to be the right time in the right place. I don't know. He's a better shot.
Yeah.
I don't know what makes him more impressive than anybody else in his line of work, but
yeah,
you don't know anything about him.
Yeah, he did seem to have a little bit of main character syndrome going on. Some of the things I did like, though, that maybe set him apart a bit was there were a couple of times where other judges try to do corrupt things, and Judge Dredd shuts him right down. And another thing that was interesting, too, was, in modern society, like, at least where I live, if you're wealthy and you have a lot of political power, or both, you can do pretty much whatever you want. Like, the law does not apply to you. But what was interesting in Mega City 1 is that Judge Dredd, a couple times, he stops billionaires and even trillionaires cold in their evil plans, and they get, like, called to account, same as anybody else. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. I think one even tried bribing him, and he said, I'm adding to your sentence because you tried bribing me.
Yep. Yeah, cool. All right, so then I think we had a couple just for fun questions here that we wanted to ask each other.
Yes.
And my question for you is, what would you pick as a job in Mega City 1? So if you had to have your job, like, plastered across your chest, like, what would you go with?
Well, this was a really interesting one because I really tried to think of something other than the obvious one. But I was just stuck on it because with all the issues that are going on, and there's obviously lots of very angry, confused, scared, frightened people, I want to be a therapist. Unfortunately, writing therapist in big, bold letters on your chest is never going to look right. It's going to come across as a completely different job description to what you want to actually be.
Yeah.
Because it's going to have to be over 2 lines. The first line's going to be the. I'm not going to say the next bit, but
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. And so, like, if your chest is turned a little bit, that's not a good. That's not a good thing to have on your chest. Yeah, man. Especially with all the judges running around. Nice.
so my question for you was: in an average day in Mega City, what would be the first thing you get arrested for?
Well, I like to go running a lot, and you'll exercise better. I exercise better if I've hydrated well. And so if I've hydrated well on these long runs, occasionally I have to stop and, take a pee. When I'm out in the woods, it's fine. Nobody cares. But if, I'm out in Mega City 1 and I keep getting told, oh, sorry, you can't use the bathroom, I'd probably, I'd probably be in the alleyway taking a pee when Judge Dredd would come around the corner. It's probably my luck.
I wonder what setting on his peacemaker he needs for that.
I know, right?
Hot resin.
Yeah, what'd you say?
Hot resin.
Hot resin. Oh, no. Cool, man. Well, anything else you wanted to add before we wrap it up here?
No, I think I really enjoyed it. Thanks for making me read it. I wouldn't have done it otherwise. And because you made me read it, I've also picked up, as I showed in my video the other day,
Yeah.
Best of 2000 AD, just to educate myself more about the world of the magazine, where it came from.
That's
and I
cool.
know you've gone overboard a bit with it.
Yeah, I saw you post that video, and I was like, oh, cool. Malcolm's also going down the 2000 AD rabbit hole. And you're lucky, too, because, it's a UK magazine. So over there, like, you can probably find it in stores and get it from their website. Over here, it's a bit trickier. But, yeah, I'm really looking forward to a review of that and seeing what, other periodicals are in it. I got a couple things here, too. This is Nemesis the Warlock Man. This is one of the other comics.
Right.
And it's really good. It talks about, like, racism and xenophobia. And the art is by Kevin O'Neill. I loved this. And I'm going to get a review out of my channel at some point here. And then I also got 2 and 3 for the Case Files.
Wow.
Yeah. So, 2000 AD has their own YouTube too, and they like go through all their different characters and stuff, and they got a lot.
Yeah, they do. I think they really planned the world out quite well, because we picked this because it was the first story in Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
As the first comic was literally the first comic ever released, the first time anyone ever saw Judge Dredd.
Yep.
And it's a rich, lived-in world.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to say, okay, it takes a few comics for it to unfold and you actually learn more about the staff. Mega City's not even named until like episode 3.
Yeah.
And the Peacemaker isn't named until a bit later on and all that sort of stuff. But, we slowly get drip fed more and more stuff. But yeah, I think this is a really good starting point just to learn the origins of the story and just where it all came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think I'm good. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think we're good.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate your UK perspective, and I love your channel. I love all the brief, quick, to the point videos that you've got going on, and thanks again for explaining to me what trogs were and some of this, UK terms. That was fun.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. All right, thanks everyone. Hope you're doing well.
See you later.